My 5 favorite Australia-India test matches in Australia. I wish there were more to choose from because India have lost so much over the years in Australia that you seek moments when India won a test match and there were not too many. I mean, I know there were 2 test matches in 77, 78 that the spinners won. I'm not belittling that, but the Packer players were away. Then that great win at Melbourne in 1981. But as usual, I'm going to stick to games that I saw. And so at number 5, I'm going to pick a magnificent test match. One that India lost. But that doesn't take away from how excellent that test match was. 2014 Adelaide. Virat Kohli is captain of India for the first time. He doesn't have a great attack at his disposal. Ishant Sharma, experienced bowler, is still there, but he had a much younger Shami, Varun, Aaron, Karan Sharma, just 4 bowlers to play with. And Australia pile on the runs, declare in both innings and set India 360 plus on the last day to win in Adelaide. You don't score those runs. But we saw a magnificent innings from Virat Kohli. Murali Vijay scored those runs and India came that close to winning. And I'll tell you, I was there for that test match. There was nobody sitting as comfortably as I am sitting in this chair at the moment. Everybody on the edge of their seats. Australia coming hard at India. Nathan Lyon bowling on that 5th day test and the ball was spitting like it was coming off an Indian surface, but with lot more bounce. Batting very difficult. Look either side of Virat Kohli. Take out Virat Kohli, take out Murali Vijay. There was absolutely nothing to play with and India were that close to winning. It was heartbreaking, but it was a great test match nonetheless. That was number 5 on my list. Then at number 4, I'm back in Adelaide. What a test match. The first test match of that 2018-19 series. Lots of aspirations. Can India do it this time? No Warner, no Smith. India batting first. Good batting surfaces in Adelaide. 45 for 4. And we thought, right, there we go again. Another Australian tour starts. Then Pujara starts to claw it back. Pujara rarely punches you in the nose and says, give it back to me. Pujara pinches you a little bit. He scratches you a little bit there. He'll nudge you a little bit there. And he got support. He got a little bit of support from Rohit Sharma, then from Ashwin, then Rishabh Pant, then Ashwin. Drags India to 250. Australia come to 235. Then again, India inched through, set Australia a decent target. And Australia just 31 runs short. At one point, it seemed India were one up, about 120 to get, only 3 wickets in hand. The tail started coming closer and closer, and eventually India won by 31 runs. But I remember it for a few reasons. Pujara's century in the first innings, second innings when India needed the runs, Ajinkya Rahane putting on those runs, and Ravichandran Ashwin bowling those long spells, 30 odd overs, 3 for 50 in the first innings, bowled 50 overs in the second innings and picked up 3 for 90, literally closing one end. He was brilliant, and then around him the 3 seamers first told us that India could do it in Australia. That was my match number 4. Match number 3, India win a series. Ordinarily, that should have been my number 1 test, but the other 2 I've picked have a great story around them as well. But in India go to Melbourne and Bumrah just slices through the innings. Pujara scores runs again. Virat Kohli gets an 80. There's runs around those as well. Mayank Agarwal comes in at the top of the order and scores runs too. And then Australia decimated for 150 by Jasprit Bumrah. Seam bowling of the very highest order and something for sore eyes, something I'd never seen in my life. In the other side, there's Stark, there's Cummins, there's Hazelwood, and Bumrah, Shami, Ishant, they're bowling beautifully. Almost out bowling them, made to look that way because of the paucity of class in the Australian batting. The great thing about that test match, India backed 170 overs. By then, Australia's bowlers are tired, and then India knocked them over in 60 odd overs, 65, 66 overs, thereabouts. Tired legs have to come in and bowl again. That was Pujara's contribution in that series, keeping the Australian bowlers tired. So that was my test match number 3. Test match number 2 has to be Adelaide in 2003-04. So many stories. You could write a book around that test match. Australia make 556. By the way, twice in Adelaide has a team made 500 plus in the first innings and lost a test match. That's how good the surface was. That's how quickly the runs were scored there. And India are 85 for 4. That was the zenith of Indian batsmanship. Remember that too. Ganguly has got 100 in Brisbane. Before that, Sehwag gets a fabulous 100 in Melbourne. Tendulkar's mammoth 241. Lakshman scoring runs everywhere. But that game was about 2 people just reliving the horrors from an Australian point of view of Kolkata 2001. 303 runs between Rahul Dravid and VVS Lakshman. By the way, India have 300-run partnerships in Test match cricket around that time, and all of those involved VVS Lakshman. There was to be a 353-run partnership later in the series between Tendulkar and Lakshman as well, and that brought India close. Then that Agarkar spell, then that 70 not out from Rahul Dravid at the end. Oh, it was wonderful to see. I remember I didn't want to leave the ground, and as I walked around the ground afterwards, I found some of the players didn't want to leave the ground. It was a lovely evening in Adelaide. It was an evening that was enriched by some great performances. That was number 2. So why was that number 2? Because the finest performance I've seen by India in Australia was in Perth in 2007-8. It followed the one test match in Australia that I would give anything to forget, to pretend it never happened. It was terrible. The Sydney Test match in 2007-8, tempers flying, people saying things to each other, captains saying that somebody is out, the umpire believing them rather than going on some other evidence that was available to them. I don't want to talk about Sydney 2007-8 at all, except to tell you that set the scene for Perth's 2007-8. Luckily, there was an 8 or 9 day gap and India went to Canberra in between. Rumors were flying around that India had ordered a plane to take them back from the tour. The tour had collapsed had it not happened. There was all kinds of things happening. Racism allegations being made. Feeling that Australia had been boorish from the Australian media itself. There's a reason I'm telling this story. India come back to Perth. It's a test match that's been made for India to lose. Fast, bouncy track in Perth. Australia pick Mitch Johnson, Brett Lee, Sean Tate. Has there been a quicker trio of bowlers? And the most effective of them all, maybe in those conditions, was Stuart Clark. But India had contributions. Rahul Dravid hung in there, got a 90 in the first innings. Then when India trying to run away from Australia, VVS Lakshman scores a 79. Irfan Pathan swings the ball around, picks up both the openers very early, scores a 20 odd in the first innings, is promoted to number 3 in the second innings, gets 40 plus over there and plays a valuable innings. It was a wonderful test match for him. Then when Lakshman is taking India away from Australia, RP Singh scores a 40 and stays with him for a very long time, and eventually India win a test match with Anil Kumble being an extraordinary leader. I only wish Anil Kumble had led India more often, but the feeling that day was that you cannot let all that is happening in the ground around you get to you. If anything, it strengthens you. And purely for all the forgettable events before that, Perth's 2007-8 was still my number 1 test match.